Hey, everybody, we're live. We're doing our halftime recap, which will kind of seep into the third quarter, depending on what everybody has to say. That's a good thing. But here is the team. We have our NFL draft expert, Bill Carroll, in the middle. And say, hey, Bill.
Hello, everyone. Happy National Tight Ends Day to all those who celebrate.
So wait, that's actually a thing?
Yeah, it is.
Of course it's a thing.
George Kittle made it up like 5 years ago?
There's T-shirts, there's beer cozies, there's baby car seats, there's blankets. How do you?
I don't know baby car seats, but
probably.
So you're telling me this has nothing to do with Taylor Swift?
No, this was something that existed ahead
of time.
It's been
around for years. George Kittle invented it like 5 years ago.
Yeah, he invented 5 years ago. It falls on the fourth Sunday of October is National Tight Ends
Day. It's on the calendar.
Wow. You gentlemen can't understand how I would be a little suspicious and think that maybe it had something to do with the rise of Taylor Swift as opposed to...
if so, it happened in the other direction. You could say that National Tight Ends Day helped to maybe grow Taylor Swift, but it can't be the other way around.
The National Tight End Day will only grow Taylor Swift. Right. Though I will say it is kind of funny how Swift is already on the Eagles.
She is?
Yeah,
he's about DeAndre Swift.
No relation.
Oh, it was a pun. Oh, it was punny. Aha, you're being
Kelsey and Swift already on the Eagles.
Yes.
Gosh.
Yes, we do have a Kelsey and a Swift.
So funny. I got it. Okay. All right. Now, what do you two gentlemen think about this contest? Did you expect it to be a near blowout for a time at the hands of the Eagles over the Dolphins? It's actually evenly matched because we have passing to a Tagovailoa, 13 of 16 for 129, one touchdown. Jalen Hurts, 12 of 16. That's wild. 143 and one touchdown. While you talk about even for the Bama boys.
Well,
Bill.
Though both teams come in with identical records, one has played a much tougher schedule. So I was always a little bit concerned about the sort of who have they played factor for the Dolphins. And the Dolphins will keep this close because they're a good team. Also, they've been dealing with injuries lately, so they've got some things to worry about because they've lost some depth of talent. And now Jalen Waddle has come up with a bad back, so they're going to have to manage the game a little differently than they normally would. But even without that, even if they were at full strength, I would still, if both teams were at full strength, I would lean slightly Philadelphia because they're a little more battle tested.
Bill, thank you, Bill. Vinny?
I actually picked the Dolphins in an upset for this game, and for one major reason. I thought that on Sunday Night Football, at least so far, this would be the game that the Dolphins truly show the rest of the nation that they truly mean business. And so far, most of the season, the Dolphins have beat up on really, really bad competition like the Broncos and the Panthers. But then against teams such as the Bills, for instance, they struggled a bit. Meanwhile, the Eagles, they won every game this season except for last week against the Jets, and that was that was close until the very end. So I was thinking that, could they be really pulling for a win here? I was thinking, they're at home, but at the same time, the Dolphins, I think so I said, why not the Dolphins? Why not be a bit bold here? Might have been a little bit too bold in hindsight, but at the same time, I did think that regardless of what happened, this would be a relatively competitive game and what could potentially be a Super Bowl preview.
I have to say, I thought that it was a toss-up game. I couldn't see one way or the other who was going to win. There are a number of people who are really enamored with what Mike McDaniel's doing on offense, but what they do, and Bill and I, we've talked about this privately. I think I actually talked about it, though, on a live stream, but I'll just reiterate that my take on what he does is that he has a set of specific plays, but it's not an entire system. And so if you can figure out those plays and when he's going to call those particular plays, you can stop them. For instance, let's take the wide receiver double pass, right? That got snuffed out. All right. Yeah. I just made a video about it. They had a fundamental weakness. They took the tight end on that side, and you can see on the screen they were actually drawing with a tight end. You block out to the left to keep the end away from the receiver. But what happens when that occurs? You get resistance from the end, and you get this push out, and the receiver's right there outside. Okay. And so what happens is what happens. You take three people, the tight end, the tackle, and the guard, have them go all the way over there. You're bringing the end with you. And so not surprisingly, the end snuffs out the throw because he snuffed out the wide receiver. It's not the way you design that kind of play. You design it with the idea that the cornerback's going to be way off of you, and therefore you throw back the receiver. You have the receiver come back. You have this space that's your time. And the receiver immediately gets rid of the ball. He doesn't stand there and hold it like number 11 did and get sacked. So my point is they design these plays that look nifty on the whiteboard or, the iPad board, but they don't test them against just simple logic, and just say, hey, how can this play not work? And I see that happen with this plays a number of times. Now, when they do work, they work extremely beautifully. But they're very pointillist. It's kind of like, okay, we'll do this, and this. But okay, so how is your run game different? I mean, are you using counters? Are you using 70 style blocking? Are you having the fullback run, after being 3.5 or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, like we used to out of Brown formation in the Mark Van Egan days of the Raiders, and go on and on and on and on and on? Okay, enough of me saying that. As you can tell, I'm annoyed. We can get off that one, but then get back to this next question. Of all the news thus far, and I'll start with Bill and then Vinny, which one today in the NFL was most important to you?
I think the thing that was a through line running through all these games, even some of the higher scoring games, was the importance of defense. In every single one of the games that I saw today, there was a definitive play, very often late in the game, made by a defense. Either it might have been an interception or might have been, a sack that snuffed out a promising drive. Everything that's happened in the last, we talked about like really 5 decades, have been to disadvantage defensive players and be advantageous to offensive players. And I've railed against it to some extent as someone who loves defense. And it did my heart good to see how many of these games were decided by defensive plays. So in this game, I believe we're watching tonight, some play that shuts the door for one team or opens up the other will be made by the defense. Whether it's an interception or, on 4th down, somebody breaks through and gets a tackle for loss or bats a ball down. As much as the game is trying to, go towards, making it, spreading the game out, and, people have talked about the, flag footballization of the NFL and things like that. Every single one of
Olympics. Sorry,
right?
Yes.
Because I'm
Olympics, excited.
Me too.
Right. But with all of that, it really did my heart, good. It made me smile a little bit on the inside to see, what the Steelers defense is able to do, what some of the top even some of the not top defenses, frankly, were able to do to turn the tide of a game, especially in the upset games, right? If you watch the upsets today, very often the offense is, the Bears offense wasn't exactly killing it out there, but their defense made play after play that gave them that victory. Look at the Patriots game, right? Very few people thought the Patriots had a chance to win that game, and they forgot. Well, Bill Belichick still knows how to scheme up some things on defense. That defense showed up with a tremendous game plan and, gave them a chance to win that game that very few people gave them a chance to win.
So what does this tell us about the Patriots, Bill? I got to ask you real quick. And why they are now, 2-5?
Yes, they are. And
how do you explain? I have an interesting take on that.
Well, I've explained it many times before, but I'll explain it again. At one point, when William Stephen Belichick showed up at the facility at 4:57 in the morning, already there were people like Scott Pioli and Thomas Dimitroff and John Olsef and who's the other one I'm thinking of? Later went to Atlanta. No, that was Dimitroff. The other
This is Dimitroff. Pioli also did, but he went to Kansas City first.
Right, but there's another one. And then what's his name? I just mentioned just now with the Texans. But there was basically a bunch of young, hungry, and sleepless young men already there, right? They may not have been the best drafting team, and they weren't the best. They were really good in pro player personnel. When they made trades, they usually made the right trade. When they made free agent signings, they usually made the right ones. When they went out and got, Rodney, right? I mean, a lot of people thought he was done. The Chargers could have brought him back on he wasn't a big money guy. Chargers could have easily brought him back and paid him, even if they made him one of the top, let's say 12 paid safeties in the league.
Talking about Rodney Harrison.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
From beautiful,
he's now a broadcaster. Yeah.
Right. From beautiful Dalton, Illinois, right? South suburbs of Chicago. Got to see him play a little bit in high school. But he was devastating at Western Illinois. He played linebacker. He was killing people at 207-pound linebacker. But all those guys are gone. That's the point I'm making. William Stephen Belichick throws open that door, and there's the echoes of those guys. And they've never been great at drafting. They've been up and down in drafting, mostly down, especially the last few years. So now none of those people are gone, and he hasn't successfully managed to find another crop of guys like that. There's that I know of, no future Scott Pioli or Thomas Dimitroff or Osef or any of those guys are in the room when he walks in. Now it's him and a bunch of young cats who aren't as good at finding those undiscovered players, those, Troy Browns and other guys who sort of slip through the cracks of other people's sort of talent evaluation system. So there's
no cheating. Creative use of the camera.
Well, I don't think that would be enough, frankly. I mean, that's the kind of thing that when you have a good team can put you from very good to great or good to very good. That won't help you from bad. It doesn't get you from bad to good, unfortunately. It gets you from bad to slightly more competitive.
So you're advocating cheating?
No, I'm saying that the reason people cheat is to get to the next level of something. You can't turn bad into good. Cheating isn't enough, is what I'm pointing out.
You do a lot more. More.
They would need cheating wouldn't be enough, is what I'm pointing out. This team wouldn't even cheating might only get them one more win. They aren't good enough, is what I'm pointing out.
Totally.
Cheating doesn't matter that much if you're bad.
Yes.
Bill, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, my thoughts on like
Vinny. I'm sorry. I'm pointing. Look at you, Vinny. I'm saying Bill. Wow. Next time we look at Bill and saying Vinny. Oh well. Okay.
No, don't worry. Okay, the reason why I would say the Patriots have been, lacking somewhat this year compared to their AFC East counterparts is because one, the division's gotten a lot tougher since their dominance there for the last 20 years. So, the Jets have gotten better. The Bills have owned the division. The Dolphins have loaded up. You also see 3 young, hungry, experienced, longtime assistants that get their crack in as head coaches, and they've been killing it lately. You also have like you mentioned, Dimitrov's not there anymore. Pioli's not there anymore. The people that they've drafted have not been close to as good, and they've really bungled a lot of the times on their personnel decisions in drafting. And when you also look at that team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, you don't have Dante Scarnecchia there as your offensive line coach, and you don't have the talent there to work around. Even if you don't have a Scarnecchia, you could somewhat rely on the talent of your offensive line. That talent is non-existent. And it's hard. And also look at wide receiver. You could have gotten Jacoby Myers and got him for the same price you did Juju Smith-Schuster, but you gave that money to Juju Smith-Schuster, the exact same contract that the Raiders gave Jacoby Myers, but instead you pay that exact same money to go get an injury-prone Juju Smith-Schuster who has like 1 catch the last 2 games. So it's been poor personnel decisions. And, a lot of people are saying, oh, Brady's the only reason why Belichick's successful. Like, you've got people on talk radio.
Go ahead.
You get some people on talk radio and the media that say this over and over and over again. Listen, Belichick's father is one of the greatest scouts of all time, Steve Belichick, a guy that I believe should be in the Hall of Fame. And he, for a long time, was an assistant coach from the Lions, the Colts, and of course, many years with the Giants, their defensive coordinator, also was a head coach for the Browns, was also an assistant for the Jets, and also that one stint with the Patriots. Let's not pretend like he was only successful solely because of Brady. That is just foolish. That is completely foolish. It is not going to detail about how, Belichick's emphasis is on the defensive side of the ball, and his defenses over the past 20 years have been really, really dominant. So we can't just pull that all on Brady. But the defenses this year the talent for defense is not really there as it was before. And like I said, these other teams that are like the Jets, Dolphins, and Bills, they've gotten better with their scouting department and their player development. And like you said, Zenny, more and more teams are adopting the Patriot way.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of reasons. And I actually thought that the Patriots would keep it close against this game, against the Bills. You know why?
Why?
It's because, well, it's a division rival. That's first and foremost. Second of all, the Bills may have a playoff spot so far. But I don't know about you. I just never really felt the Bills are really world beaters this year. The Bills have had very somewhat close games. You also had that game last week against the Giants that they had no business having it be that close against. And I just said, this has the making of a potential upset or a game that the Patriots could try to keep it close. Not only that, for the Patriots, a team like them that has struggled mightily on offense the last several weeks, they're going to want this game at home against a division rival to really motivate themselves and make sure they still stay competitive throughout the season. That final drive on the end of the game saved their season, and in my opinion was the best drive of Mac Jones's career, just because it. And not only that, that was Bill Belichick's 300th regular season victory ever as a head coach. So what a way to have your 300th victory. So yeah, that's my thoughts, Zenny and Bill, about why the Patriots are the way they are and why I'm not surprised they kept it close and even won against the Bills. Questions about the Bills and also because of the Patriots.
My take on that is we are now at the 7th week, right?
Mm-hmm. Week 7.
And every time we get to this point, I'm reminded of Dan Quinn when he coached the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons went on a 5-0 run. Remember that?
Yeah, that was 2015. It was his first season as the head coach. And
I also interviewed him right here at Zennie62 that year at the NFL annual meeting. I was actually the first at the table.
Oh, nice.
So I really watched him closely because, well, local, had a great conversation, all that sort of thing. But I noticed something. Teams get a book on you, but the question is, when does that book take hold? What I mean by that is the statistics about what their opponents are doing and what they're doing, and they're making adjustments. And they're, of course, making adjustments with personnel and scheme and practice and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, if you remember, guess what happened after
3-8 the rest of the season?
Yeah. They never changed their approach. Remember that, Bill?
Yep.
No, they didn't change their approach at all, and the Panthers, as everyone else that season, just obliterated everyone.
Right, and that's what I believe. I haven't watched the Bills-Patriots game, but I've got to believe that they've made a whole series of adjustments in their approaches that are minutia on an individual level, but large taken as a whole.
Definitely.
And I haven't looked at it, but I expect to see a slightly different fronts. I expect to see different techniques in terms of blocking. A lot of little things that get them the yards you're looking for. I even was pointed this time about the Patriots when just saw a quick clip that was a update of the contest. First thing I noticed, the Patriots were in double tight end on the goal line, ace formation. I thought, wait a minute, I haven't seen that in a while. And the quarterback was under center. Hello. And what did? They ran.
Mm-hmm.
They went back to football basics. You guys know what I mean?
Yeah, like the early T formation kind of days.
Yeah, but I mean, if your strength is offensive line, you can move people out of the way.
Definitely.
Why not?
Not only that, for the Bills, you don't have Matt Milano there anymore, and you don't have Tre'Davious White in the defensive back. Like the Bills are also beat up on the defensively. Like, but there was a point in this game.
I'm glad you said that. Even if that were the case, as an old fan of the trap block, I trap them. I mean, you're telling me you have a better defensive lineman up there. I'm saying, fine, I'll trap them. So my point is, I'll say this just very quickly. The 70s and 80s approach as analog sometimes works the best.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes you got to go back to the basics to fool people. Also, there was a point in this game where I didn't see it as much, but the Patriots were up by quite a bit in this game for most part. They were leading for most of this game.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later that the Bills actually scored a few touchdowns, and they got the lead. And it came down to that final drive that the Patriots, Mac Jones, the offense, perfectly executed, walk-off fashion, 300 victory for the Hoodie.
All right. Bill, your thoughts?
Well, I was a person that, once again, said going into the season, the Bills and Bengals were teams I thought would take steps back for sometimes similar reasons. Josh Allen is a player that plays on the razor's edge of disaster a lot of times anyway, and usually gets away with it. But you can only run in the rain long enough before you start getting wet, Zennie. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing you can only run around.
You can run the rain so long before you start to get wet.
Ooh, I like that.
So that's something that's happening. The injuries were just mentioned. They've had some key injuries to key players, but mostly, I think that if you look at where they are in their sort of talent cycle, they are moving into that tough place where the Rams already are. They are going to be there soon. They're going to make some very tough decisions about who they can continue to pay. Josh Allen, obviously, is one of the higher paid players in the league. They have some good defensive players who are going to be up for contracts very soon. And most of their offensive players not named Josh Allen are kind of replaceable, and Steph Diggs, other than Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. You can conceivably say the rest of these guys are replaceable. Because they better be, because you're going to have to replace several of them very soon. And they've got to find a way to repair the plane while it's flying. We're seeing the Steelers, as they often do, manage to do it. There's some ugly weeks, and there'll be some more ugly weeks, Steelers fans. Sorry to say it. But they're repairing the plane while it's in the air. They're not, going, 2-15, 3-14, that kind of thing, and then loading up in the draft. They're piecing it together while keeping it in the air. Cam Hayward's probably in the last year of his career, and they're going to have to obviously find his replacement either in the draft or free agency. But they're mostly managing to keep the plane afloat, keep the plane, aloft while they're doing it. It's hard to do. We'll see if the Bills can do the same thing, because they're about to have to retool at about 3 or 4 positions in the next year or two, simply because of contract situations.
All right, so I got to ask this question before we ease on out of here. 2 questions. First of all, what the heck is going on in this world that the Chicago Bears beat the Oakland Raiders?
Las Vegas Raiders.
I'm aware of that. I'm saying that for a purpose. By 30-12. Mm-hmm. Did the Raiders go to Las Vegas and lose their manhood? What's going on here? I mean, I said it just like that. Yeah, this is a weenie team. What does it got? I don't get it.
I should mention I actually picked the Raiders in this game, knowing that they have it was Brian Hoyer versus what was the new.
You tried Tyson Bagent?
Yeah, Tyson Bagent, Division 2.
How do you pronounce his name?
Tyson
Bagent. He's the son of a Hall of Fame arm wrestler. His father has won, I think, 8 or 9 championships right-handed, and like another 5 or 6 left-handed.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So his son can go into arm wrestling if the NFL doesn't work out. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I use that. He used his arm to good use.
Yeah, his dad's a great interview too. But yes, go ahead.
Wow, I would love that. But yeah, I gotta hand it to that kid in his first game at home. The Bears' first ever home victory since September of last year. Great performance, and easily the best rookie quarterback performance in their first week. But just the defense of the Bears showed up against the Raiders, and even though the Raiders have won a few games, they've been it's just hard to make of them for whatever reason. I don't know. It's just I didn't see the game as much as I should have, because I was watching some of the other games. I was watching the Giants game. I was also watching the Falcons game. I was watching a few of the games, but I didn't really see the Raiders-Bears one as much because, Hoyer versus Bagent. But
I heard Josh McDaniels' press conference that gave me a bellyache. Why? Because it was, basically, to put it in a nutshell, the player's fault. Says we all have to improve. But he always says that as opposed to saying, I could have put together a better game plan. And
I agree. That's a pretty
look.
It's a pretty half-baked answer.
Record equals preparation. Record equals game plan. You say you're injured, game plan around it. You say, oh, my starting quarterback isn't there, game plan around it. Because it's what you tell your players to do that ultimately determines the outcome of what they're going to do. Because you set the table for their actions, which then causes the reaction of your opponent. And the question is, how do you respond to that?
Yeah.
So, how often, what is the definition of insanity but doing the same thing again and again and again? So there is a reason why so many people have gotten together, and it turns out on Twitter that one of the trending topics is something called McDumbass. Okay? And it's painful to watch, but why? Why? I mean, the only solace that any Raider fan can take from all of this is, to me, the other topic of conversation, the fact that Derek Carr is having the worst season of his career,
easily,
having left the Raiders for the Saints. And not only that, Derek Carr went on this meltdown that was very un-Derek Carr on national television. We all saw it.
Yeah.
And so maybe made the right decision in letting him go. I doubt it, because I think it was a mistake. They were a nice pairing. But what do you guys think?
Well, I'll start first this time. You are correct. Derek Carr, especially in terms of, let's make sure. Derek Carr, especially when it comes to how the touchdown percentage is easily the worst of his career. It's like 2% around there. And this week, he had the 4th worst QBR this week. 4th worst. Awful performance compared to the rest. And, I think it's probably just because the offense as a whole is not working, and he doesn't help things very well. He's not really been connecting as much with the receivers. The Pete Carmichael, the offensive coordinator, is not right for the job with Derek Carr's play sets. It's a mess. I was honestly thinking that maybe Carr would help them, but Zenny, not to toot your own horn, but honestly, in hindsight, they would have saved a lot more money if they just kept Jameis as the starting quarterback instead of Derek Carr.
Yep,
you honestly should have, because at least with Jameis, you could say, hey, this guy's young. He can maybe improve somewhat. Carr, yeah, you could say he's had experience with the Raiders and whatnot, but you also paid a lot to get him in free agency, and he's been bad. This is his worst season so far.
Yeah, and so let's stop it right there. We will go back to the game, and we'll have another one. And anybody, Bill, you want to have any parting thoughts with that? I think I said both of you.
I mean, I think the main thing for me is we've had enough, as you said, getting a book. We have a good idea of which teams are good, which teams aren't, and why. The thing that's going to happen from this point forward is which teams can do enough to change our initial read of them. And sometimes, it's something a team does at the trade deadline. Sometimes it's a team does a good idea of self-evaluation, self-scouting, and makes it an internal change. Or even, a change in terms of what they're doing in philosophy or direction. But generally, a team is what they are. And they either get better at doing what they're doing now, or they manage to – it's hard to halfway through, or well, not halfway, we're up almost halfway through a season, make dramatic changes, but a few teams have managed to do it. So we'll see which teams are that adaptable. Most aren't.
All right. Hey, everybody, thank you for sticking with us. We're going to go back and watch the game. Everybody stick around. That ends this broadcast. Subscribe to Zennie62 on YouTube.